For 42 years, Harold Keaton designed machines that never failed. Precision was his religion. Tolerances measured in thousandths of an inch. Systems that hummed with mathematical perfection. When he retired at 68, he lived quietly in a one-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of Reno. He clipped coupons, fixed neighbors' broken toasters, ate dinner at the same diner 3 nights a week. No one, not even his daughter who called every Sunday, knew that every night in the back corner booth of that same diner, he was building something casinos feared more than card counters, more than hackers, more than organized crime syndicates. A probability engine that could predict roulette outcomes. Not perfectly, just enough. In 11 months, he drained $29 million from 7 casinos without breaking a single law, without hacking a device, without touching a chip that wasn't his own. This is his story. Before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that hype button. Comment your city or country below. I love seeing where you're watching from. Harold Eugene Keaton was born in 1948 in a small manufacturing town in Pennsylvania called Allenport. Population 3,000, 1 main street, 2 churches, a steel plant that employed half the town. His father, Eugene Keaton, worked the assembly line at Allegheny Steel for 32 years. Came home every night with black dust under his fingernails and a cough that never quite went away. His mother, Dorothy, cleaned houses for the families who lived up on the hill. The managers, the doctors, the people who didn't work with their hands. Money was always tight. Harold wore hand-me-downs from cousins. His school lunches were usually mayonnaise sandwiches wrapped in wax paper. But his mind was something extraordinary. By age 7, he was taking apart the family radio to see how it worked. His mother found him one afternoon surrounded by vacuum tubes and wires, the radio in pieces on the kitchen table. "Harold Eugene Keaton, what have you done?" "I'm seeing how it receives the signal, Mama. Can you put it back together?" "Yes, Mama." And he did. Perfectly. By age 12, he was rebuilding lawnmower engines for neighbors, charging $2 per repair. By 16, he had designed a more efficient carburetor system for his shop teacher's old Ford pickup. The teacher, Mr. Kowalski, stared at the blueprint Harold had drawn in pencil. "Where did you learn this?" "I just thought about how the fuel needs to flow," Harold said. "The original design wastes about 15% through incomplete combustion. This one doesn't." "This is remarkable, son. You should study engineering." Harold nodded. He already knew that's what he would do. He graduated high school in 1966, got a scholarship to Penn State, worked 3 part-time jobs to cover what the scholarship didn't, graduated in 1970 with a degree in mechanical engineering and a 4.0 grade average. That summer, he received a job offer from Precision Manufacturing Corporation in Nevada. They designed calibration equipment for aerospace and defense contractors. The work was complex, demanding, and paid twice what he could make anywhere in Pennsylvania. Harold packed everything he owned into a beat-up Chevy Nova, said goodbye to his parents, promised to call every week, and drove west. He arrived in Nevada in August. The heat was staggering. The desert landscape was alien. But the work was beautiful. For the next 4 decades, Harold designed systems that demanded absolute perfection. Gyroscope calibration equipment, rotational measurement devices, bearing systems for satellite components. The kind of work where a deviation of 0.001 inches could mean a satellite spinning out of control or a missile missing its target by miles. Harold never failed. His designs were flawless. His calculations were perfect. Always. His co-workers described him as quiet, methodical, almost robotic in his focus. He arrived at 7:30 every morning, ate lunch alone at his desk, usually a sandwich and an apple, never attended company parties or holiday gatherings. But when a machine broke down, when a system malfunctioned, Harold was the first person they called. He could look at a broken motor for 30 seconds and tell you exactly what was wrong. His former supervisor, Robert Chen, told investigators years later. I'm talking about complex systems, dozens of moving parts. And Harold would just stare at it, silent, like he was listening to something. Then he'd point and say, "The bearing on shaft 3 is worn 0.003 inches beyond tolerance. Replace it." And he'd be right, every single time. Another co-worker, Linda Martinez, remembered Harold differently. He wasn't cold. People thought he was, but he wasn't. He just lived in his head. "I had a flat tire once in the parking lot. Harold came over, Didn't say anything, just changed it for me. When I tried to thank him, he just nodded and walked away. Like helping was just what you did. No emotion necessary. Harold married in 1972. A woman named Margaret he met at a church social. She was a secretary at a law firm. Practical, organized. They dated for 6 months before Harold proposed. The proposal was simple. Margaret, I think we would have a stable life together. Would you marry me? Not romantic, but honest. They married in a small ceremony, had one daughter, Emily, born in 1975. The marriage was stable but not passionate. Margaret handled the house, the finances, the social obligations. Harold handled everything mechanical, fixing appliances, maintaining the cars, assembling furniture. They existed together peacefully for 42 years. When Margaret died suddenly of an aneurysm in 2014, Harold was 66 years old. He found her in the kitchen one morning. She was making coffee. She said, "I have the worst headache." And then she was gone. The funeral was small. Emily flew in from California with her husband and 2 kids. Harold stood at the grave and didn't cry. Not because he didn't feel anything, but because feelings were complicated and Harold preferred things that were simple. After the funeral, Emily stayed for a week. "Dad, are you going to be okay?" "Yes." "Do you want to come live with us? We have room." "No, thank you. I have my work." "Dad, you need to retire soon anyway. You're 66. "I'll think about it." But the house felt wrong without Margaret. Too big, too quiet. Every room held memories he didn't know how to process. So he sold it and moved into a 1-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of Reno. Closer to work. Simpler. 2 years later, in 2016, Precision Manufacturing offered early retirement packages to senior employees. Harold was 68. He had worked there for 46 years. They gave him a gold watch engraved with his name and a pension that paid $1,800 a month. Combined with Social Security, he would receive about $2,700 monthly. Enough to live simply, not enough for luxury. Exactly what Harold needed. His retirement party was brief. Cake in the break room, handshakes, a plaque thanking him for his service. Harold smiled politely, thanked everyone, and left at 3:30. His days became routine. He woke at 6, made coffee, read the newspaper, did the crossword puzzle, always finished in under 15 minutes, took a walk around the apartment complex, had lunch, afternoon nap, evening in his small workshop, tinkering. He fixed broken radios, clock mechanisms, old cameras, anything mechanical he could find at thrift stores. Not because he needed them, but because he needed the problem solving, the diagnosis, the solution. Harold wasn't lonely. He was alone. There's a difference. He didn't need people. People were unpredictable, emotional, complicated. He needed systems, problems with clear parameters, equations that balanced, machines that behaved according to physical laws. And then, on a cold February night in 2016, he found the greatest system of his life, one that was designed to be unbeatable, but wasn't. The Riverside Casino Buffet was having a senior discount night, $8 for all-you-can-eat prime rib, baked potatoes, and a surprisingly good selection of desserts. Harold's church group organized a trip. A chartered bus would pick everyone up at 6:30. Harold hadn't been to a casino in probably 20 years, maybe more. Margaret hated gambling, called it throwing money away. "The house always wins, Harold. That's mathematics." She was right, of course. But Margaret was gone now, and several people from the church had asked if he was coming. "Come on, Harold," Mrs. Patterson had said after Sunday service. "You never do anything social. It's just dinner and maybe a few nickels in the slots. Live a little." So he agreed. The bus arrived at the Riverside at 7:15. The casino was massive, a sprawling complex of lights and noise that assaulted the senses the moment you walked through the doors. Slot machines chirping and ringing, people shouting at craps tables. The artificial smell of pump oxygen mixed with cigarette smoke and cheap perfume. Harold hated it immediately. The chaos, the inefficiency, the deliberate confusion of the layout designed to keep people wandering, searching, spending. But the buffet was good. He had to admit that. The prime rib was cooked medium rare, properly seasoned. The mashed potatoes were real, not instant. He filled his plate and sat with the church group, 8 other seniors, all talking enthusiastically about their recent ailments. Their grandchildren. The weather. Harold nodded politely. Ate his dinner. Answered when spoken to directly. Harold, you're so quiet, Mrs. Chen said. Are you feeling all right? I'm fine, thank you. Just listening. He's always been quiet, haven't you, Harold? Mr. Patterson added. Strong, silent type. Harold smiled. Let them fill the silence. After 45 minutes, most of the group headed toward the penny slot machines. Mrs. Patterson invited Harold to join them. No, thank you. I think I'll just walk around a bit. See you back at the bus. Don't get lost now, Harold wondered. The casino was a maze of flashing lights and carpeting with deliberately dizzying patterns. No windows, no clocks. Everything designed to make you lose track of time and space. He found it fascinating in an abstract way. The psychology of manipulation, the engineering of addiction, whole systems designed around exploiting human weaknesses, cognitive biases, loss aversion, the gambler's fallacy. He was heading toward the exit, ready to wait by the bus, when he passed a roulette table. 3 players, a middle-aged couple betting red and black with the grim determination of people trying to win back what they'd already lost. A younger man in his 30s spreading chips randomly across the board like he was playing bingo. The dealer was a woman in her 50s, name tag reading Lorraine. She had the tired efficiency of someone who'd been doing this job for years. Spin. Call, collect, pay, spin. Her movements were mechanical, practiced, perfect. Harold stopped walking. Something was wrong. Not wrong in an obvious way, but wrong in a way his engineer's brain recognized immediately. Like hearing a car engine and knowing, just from the sound, that a bearing is wearing out. He watched one spin. The ball clattered around the wheel, bounced across the numbered pockets, and settled on 14. 14! Red! Lorraine called. The couple lost. The young man won $40 on a split bet. Neither of them seemed to notice what Harold saw. The wheel had a rhythm. Harold watched another spin. 12. Red. Another. 9. Red. Another. 7. Black. Another. 11. Black. Another. 10. Black. 5 spins. All of them in the 7 through 14 range. Could be coincidence. Probably was coincidence. He watched 5 more spins. 8. 32. 11. 7. 14. 4 out of 5 in the same section. Harold felt something he hadn't felt in years. Excitement. The thrill of discovering a problem. The wheel wasn't broken. It wasn't rigged. It was just imperfect. A slight wobble in the rotation. Maybe the table wasn't perfectly level. Maybe the frets, the metal dividers between numbers, were worn unevenly in that section. Maybe the ball return angle favored that side. Whatever the reason, the wheel had a bias. You playing, sir? Harold blinked. Lorraine was looking at him, smiling professionally. The couple and the young man had left. It was just him standing there. Oh, no, just watching. Well, good luck to you either way. She began wiping down the felt with a small cloth, preparing for the next players. Harold walked away, made it about 20 feet before stopping. His mind was racing, calculating. If the wheel had a measurable bias, even a small one, say 2 or 3%, and if that bias was consistent over time, then the odds could be shifted. Not enough to guarantee wins, but enough to eliminate the house edge, maybe even create a player edge. He looked back at the table. Lorraine was dealing to a new group of players. The wheel spun. The ball danced. 23, red, outside the section. But that didn't disprove anything. Bias didn't mean certainty. It just meant probability shifted slightly. Over 10 spins you might not notice. Over 100? Maybe. Over 1,000? Definitely. Harold walked to the bus, sat in the back. Mrs. Patterson asked if he had fun. It was interesting, he said. That night he couldn't sleep. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, his mind replaying the wheel, the rotation speed, the ball's trajectory, Lorraine's release point, the way the ball bounced. At 4 in the morning, he got up, made coffee, sat at his small kitchen table and sketched from memory the wheel layout, 38 numbers, 0, 00, and 1 through 36. The numbers weren't sequential around the wheel. They were arranged to distribute colors and odd, even numbers evenly. an elegant system designed for randomness. But randomness required perfect mechanical conditions, and perfect mechanical conditions didn't exist in the real world. Harold drew the wheel again, marked the section from 7 to 12, noted the spin direction, the ball release point. He made calculations in the margins. Rotational velocity, deceleration rates, ball weight, and elasticity. It wasn't enough. He needed data. Real, measured, scientific data. That night, Tuesday, he returned to the riverside. He didn't tell anyone. Just drove himself in his old Honda, parked in the back lot, walked through the casino doors at 7:30. He found the same table. Table 3, he noted now. Lorraine was dealing again. Good. Consistency was important. Harold didn't play, he just watched. He had modified his old Timex watch, used a tiny drill bit to make marks on the crystal face. Little reference points at quarter-second intervals. Not obvious unless you were looking for them. To anyone else, just scratches on an old watch. He timed spins, noted the numbers. Watched Lorraine's release technique. She spun the ball counterclockwise while the wheel rotated clockwise. Standard procedure. But her release point was consistent, almost exactly the same spot every time. That mattered. He filled 5 pages in a pocket notebook. Left at 9:30, drove home, entered the data into a spreadsheet. Wednesday, he visited a different casino, the Golden Sunset, watched their roulette tables, different dealers, different wheels, different biases. Thursday, the Silver Palace. Friday, the Desert Mirage. Saturday and Sunday, back to the Riverside. Different times, different dealers on the same table. By Monday, Harold had notebooks filled with data. 17 pages. Hundreds of spins recorded, patterns emerging. He started mapping. Each wheel had its own personality. Table 3 at the Riverside favored the 712 section. Table 7 at the Golden Sunset favored 1924. Table 1 at the Silver Palace had almost no bias. Newer wheel, better maintenance, nearly random. But the others, they all had exploitable imperfections. Harold realized something extraordinary, something that would change his life completely. Every roulette wheel in every casino had micro-biases, tiny mechanical imperfections invisible to casual observation, but clear to someone who understood rotational systems. And if you could measure those biases, if you could quantify them, if you could calculate the probability shifts they created, then you could win, not every time, but over time, consistently. Harold went home that night and cleared his workshop. He had work to do, the most important work of his life. Harold's workshop became a laboratory, a command center, a place where mathematics met mechanical reality. He cleared everything from his workbench, the old radios, the clock mechanisms, the cameras he'd been tinkering with, pushed them all to one side, covered them with a tarp. This project required space, focus, absolute precision. He pinned large sheets of graph paper to the walls, set up his old laptop, a Dell from 2008 that was slow but functional, installed statistical analysis software he had used for calibration work at Precision Manufacturing. Software designed to detect minute variations in rotating systems. He didn't sleep much anymore. 4 hours a night, maybe 5. The rest of the time he was calculating, measuring, refining. His daughter Emily called one Sunday afternoon. "Dad, you sound exhausted. Are you feeling all right?" "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just working on a project." "What kind of project? Are you building something?" "Something like that. Mathematical models." "Dad, you're retired. You're supposed to be relaxing, playing golf, joining a book club." Harold almost laughed. "I don't play golf, and I've never enjoyed fiction." "I'm serious, Dad. You need to take care of yourself. You sound tired. Are you eating enough?" "I'm eating fine." "When's the last time you had a real meal?" Harold looked at the coffee mug and the half-eaten granola bar on his workbench. "Yesterday." "Dad?" "I'm fine, Emily. Really, I'm just engaged with something interesting. It keeps my mind active." She sighed. "Promise me you'll at least eat dinner tonight. A real dinner, not just coffee and crackers." "I promise." After he hung up, Harold did eat dinner. Microwaved a frozen dinner, Salisbury steak with mashed potatoes. Ate it standing at his workbench, studying his charts. Because this was the most beautiful problem he had ever encountered, the most elegant, the most perfect. Roulette wheels are manufactured to be random. Companies like Camig and TCS John Huxley spend millions developing wheels with tight tolerances, balanced weight distribution, precision bearings. They're tested rigorously, certified, guaranteed to produce random results. But Harold knew something these manufacturers knew, but didn't advertise. True randomness doesn't exist in mechanical systems. Everything has patterns. Everything has mathematical signatures. You just need to know how to look. He identified 7 key variables that affected roulette outcomes. Variable 1, wheel inertia and deceleration. Every wheel spins at roughly the same initial velocity. Dealers are trained to maintain consistency, but deceleration rates vary based on bearing friction, wood density, even ambient temperature. A wheel spinning in a cool room near an air conditioning vent decelerates differently than one in a warmer section of the casino floor. Harold logged spin times down to the 10th of a second. Table 3 at the Riverside decelerated 3.2% faster than Table 7 at the Golden Sunset. That affected ball trajectory predictably. Variable 2, ball weight and composition. Modern casinos use different ball types. Some use ivorine, synthetic ivory. Some use Teflon-coated resin. Some use acetate. The older the casino, the more likely they're using heavier balls. Ball weight affects bounce patterns dramatically. A heavier ball settles faster, bounces less, favors certain entry angles. A lighter ball skitters more, creating more apparent randomness, but actually more predictable physics. Harold measured this by listening. Different balls made different sounds when they hit the frets. He trained his ear to distinguish Teflon from resin, heavy from light. Variable 3, dealer consistency. This was the most human variable, but still measurable. Every dealer has a release rhythm. Some spin the ball hard, some gentle, some high on the track, some low. Lorraine at the Riverside was remarkably consistent. Harold timed 50 of her spins. The standard deviation was only 0.3 seconds. She released at almost exactly the same point every time, with almost exactly the same force. Other dealers were less consistent. The young man at the Desert Mirage, his name tag said Trevor, varied by as much as 2 seconds between spins. That created noise in the data, made predictions harder. Harold learned to focus on consistent dealers. They were exploitable. Variable 4, fret wear. The frets are the metal dividers between numbers on the wheel. They're designed to be uniform height, exactly 0.4 inches. But over time, they wear down from ball impacts. High-frequency numbers, the ones that get hit more often by random chance early in a wheel's life, develop more wear. Lower frets mean the ball settles more easily in those pockets, which means those numbers hit more often, which means more wear. A feedback loop. Harold couldn't measure this directly without touching the wheels, which would be suspicious. But he could infer it from hit frequency data over time. Numbers that hit above expectation for months were probably sitting in worn fret zones. Variable 5, table vibration. Casinos are noisy environments. Slot machines cycling, people walking, music playing. All of it creates micro vibrations that travel through the floor and up through table legs. Tables near high traffic areas vibrate more. This affects ball bounce patterns. A ball approaching a pocket can be nudged one direction or another by vibration. Harold noted table locations. Table 3 at the Riverside was in a quieter corner. Less vibration, more predictable. Table 2 at the Lucky Horseshoe was near the slots. More chaotic, less exploitable. Variable 6, air pressure and humidity. Ball bounce is affected by atmospheric conditions. In dry conditions, the ball bounces more elastic collisions. In humid conditions, less bounce. The air is denser, provides more resistance. Nevada's dry most of the year, but humidity changes with weather. Harold started checking the weather forecast before casino visits. Variable 7, bias, drift over time. Wheels change. Bearings wear down gradually. Tables get releveled during maintenance. Balls get replaced. Dealers rotate shifts. Harold realized he couldn't build static models. His charts needed updates constantly, so he visited each casino weekly, logged new data, recalculated probabilities, adjusted his betting sections. It was exhausting, but exhilarating. Over 6 weeks, Harold built detailed probability charts for 7 casinos, 11 different tables. Each chart was unique. Each required hundreds of data points. Each represented hours of observation and calculation. The charts didn't predict exact numbers. That was impossible. Too many variables, too much chaos in the system. But they predicted sections, zones on the wheel where probability shifted in the player's favor. For Table 3 at the Riverside, numbers 7 through 12 hit 2.3% more often than pure randomness would predict. That doesn't sound like much. But roulette normally gives the house a 5.26% edge. If you could shift things 2.3% toward the player, you'd have nearly even odds. If you bet smart, varied your pattern, played for volume over time, you'd have a genuine edge. Harold ran simulations using his data. He built a simple betting strategy. Focus on hot sections identified by the chart's bet $5 to $10 per spin, small enough to avoid attention play for 60 to 90 minutes per session, long enough for the edge to manifest but short enough to avoid fatigue. Cash out at different windows, different times. Never win more than $10,000 in a single session at any one casino. Rotate locations constantly. He simulated 10,000 spins using real data from Table 3. His model showed an expected profit of $32,000. On paper, the system worked. Now he just had to prove it with real money. Harold looked at his bank account. He had $1,100 in checking, $3,000 in savings he'd been keeping for emergencies. He decided $200 was his test amount. If he lost it, the system was flawed. If he won, he'd scale up. On a Thursday night in late March, Harold Keaton walked into the Riverside Casino carrying $200 in cash and a notebook filled with probability charts. Time to beat the wheel. Wheel inertia, how fast the wheel spins and how quickly it decelerates based on bearing friction and wood density. Ball weight and composition, newer balls are lighter, synthetic. Older balls are ivory or heavier resin. They bounce differently. Dealer consistency. Every dealer has a release rhythm. Some fast, some slow, some high energy, some tired. This affects ball trajectory. Fret wear. The metal dividers between numbers wear down over time. Certain sections get more hits, meaning more ball impacts, meaning more wear, meaning lower frets, meaning the ball settles there more often. Table vibration, foot traffic, nearby slot machines, structural settling, all of it creates micro vibrations that influence ball bounce. Air pressure and humidity, ball bounce is affected by atmospheric conditions. Dry air means more bounce. Humid air means less. Bias drift. Wheels change over time. Maintenance schedules matter. A freshly serviced wheel behaves differently than one that's been running for 6 months. Harold built probability charts for each casino he had studied. Not predictions, probability maps. Sections of the wheel that were statistically hotter than others. For the Riverside Casino's Table 3, numbers 7 through 12 were hitting 2.3% more often than they should. Over 100 spins, that was maybe 2 or 3 extra hits. Over 1,000 spins, 20 or 30 extra hits. Over 10,000, 200 to 300. If you bet $5 on that section every spin, you'd lose slowly at first. But over time, the edge would reveal itself. You'd start winning more than you lost. Not dramatically, not suspiciously, just consistently. And if you spread your bets intelligently, rotating through multiple hot sections, varying bet sizes, mimicking the behavior of a casual gambler, you'd look like someone having a lucky streak. Nothing more. Harold tested his charts on paper first, ran simulations using historical data he had collected. The math worked. The edge was real. Now he just had to prove it with real money. On a Thursday night in late March, Harold returned to the Riverside Casino. He brought $800 in cash, 3 weeks of grocery money. If he lost it, he would eat ramen and canned soup until his next pension check. He wasn't worried. The math was sound. He found Table 3. Lorraine was dealing again. Good. He had the most data on her release patterns. Harold bought in for $200, took his chips, placed a $5 bet covering numbers 7 through 12. Lorraine spun. No more bets. The ball clattered, bounced, settled. 11 black. Harold won $30. He played for 90 minutes that first night. Small bets, $5, sometimes 10. He rotated between his hot sections, never focusing too obviously on one area. He chatted politely with Lorraine when she asked how he was doing. Mentioned he was retired, just passing time. When he cashed out at 11 p.m., he had $470, a $270 profit. Night 2, he won $350. Night 3, he won $420. Night 4, he lost $80, his first loss. But Harold expected variance. That was part of the system. Some nights you lost. But over time, over volume, the edge won. Night 5, he won $690. Night 6, he won $1,100. Night 7, he won $950. At the end of 1 week, Harold Keaton had turned $800 into $8,400. He cashed out at different times, different cashier windows, wore different jackets, sometimes a baseball cap, sometimes glasses. Nothing dramatic, just enough variation to avoid pattern recognition. He looked exactly like what he was pretending to be, a retired man on a lucky streak. And the beautiful part? He wasn't cheating. He wasn't using devices. He wasn't colluding with dealers. He was simply betting based on observable mechanical data. Completely legal. Harold went home that night and updated his spreadsheets, refined his charts, calculated his edge more precisely. He now had proof of concept, time to scale. Harold knew one casino wasn't enough. Winning consistently at a single location would eventually draw attention. Patterns would emerge. Questions would be asked. So he expanded. Over the next 2 months, Harold built detailed probability charts for 6 more casinos: the Golden Sunset, the Silver Palace, the Desert Mirage, the Lucky Horseshoe, the Oasis, and the Grand Royale. Each casino had multiple roulette tables. Each table had its own personality, its own micro-biases. Harold studied them all, timed spins, logged dealer habits, measured ball drop points, noted maintenance schedules by watching when tables were closed for service. He created a rotation schedule: Monday and Thursday at the Riverside, Tuesday at the Golden Sunset, Wednesday and Saturday at the Silver Palace, Friday at the Desert Mirage, Sunday split between the Lucky Horseshoe and the Oasis. The Grand Royale reserved for occasional visits, never more than twice a month. He varied his appearance slightly for each location. At the Riverside, he was the polite old man who liked the prime rib. At the Golden Sunset, he wore slightly nicer clothes, played the part of a retiree who had saved up for retirement fun. At the Silver Palace, he was quieter, more reserved, nursing a single beer all night. Different personas. Same system. Harold also refined his betting strategy. He realized large wins attracted attention, but small, consistent wins blended into the noise. So he set targets. Never win more than $20,000 in a single month at any one casino. Never cash out more than $3,000 in a single transaction. Always tip dealers modestly. Not too much, not too little. He became invisible, a statistical ghost. By June, 3 months into his operation, Harold had won $140,000. By August, $420,000. By October, $1.2 million. The money piled up in different bank accounts, small regional banks, credit unions, nothing over the IRS reporting threshold. He filed his taxes honestly, declaring it as gambling winnings, paid his taxes, kept everything legal. He still lived in his small apartment, still drove his 15-year-old Honda, still ate at the same diner 3 nights a week. His daughter Emily visited for Thanksgiving. "Dad, you seem good. Happy." "I am, sweetheart." "Are you seeing anyone? Dating?" Harold smiled. "No, I'm just enjoying retirement." "Well, you seem more energized than last year. It's nice to see." She had no idea her father was operating the most sophisticated casino exploitation in modern history. By December 2016, Harold had refined his system to near perfection. He had identified the optimal times to play: weekday evenings when tables were moderately busy but not crowded, when dealers were consistent but not exhausted, when casino surveillance was focused on high-roller areas. He knew which wheels were most exploitable: the Riverside's Table 3, the Golden Sunset's Table 7, the Silver Palace's Table 1, the Desert Mirage's Table 5, the Lucky Horseshoe's Table 2, the Oasis's Table 4, the Grand Royale's Table 9. He had detailed charts for each, updated weekly based on observed drift. Wheels changed over time, bearings wore down, frets loosened, tables were releveled. Harold tracked it all. his betting became more sophisticated. He used a modified progression system, increasing bets slightly after wins, decreasing after losses, but always within his probability zones. He mixed in occasional random bets to appear less systematic. Sometimes he'd bet black, sometimes a corner, sometimes a split, anything to look like a normal gambler. But his core strategy never changed. Bet the hot sections identified by his charts. Small edges, large volume, long timelines. In January 2017, he crossed 2 million. In March, 5 million. In May, 9 million. The money became abstract. Harold didn't spend it, didn't need it. He was solving the problem for its own sake. This was the greatest engineering challenge of his life, beating a system designed to be unbeatable, using nothing but mathematics and observation. One night in June, Harold was at the Silver Palace, Table 1. The dealer was a young man named Marcus who had worked there for 3 years. Harold had extensive data on Marcus's release patterns. An older woman sat down next to him, probably mid-70s, wearing too much perfume and a tracksuit covered in rhinestones. "You play here often, honey?" she asked. "Occasionally," Harold said. "Me too. Love this place. I'm down about 3,000 this month, but that's how it goes, right? You win some, you lose some." "That's the game," Harold agreed. "You winning tonight?" "Doing okay." She watched him place his bets. $5 on numbers 10 through 15, 5 on 19 through 24. Marcus spun. 13, black. Harold collected his chips. The woman laughed. "You've got good luck, honey. Maybe I should bet where you bet." "I wouldn't recommend it," Harold said quietly. "It's still just chance." But it wasn't. And over the next hour, Harold won consistently while the woman lost steadily. She eventually wandered off to the slots, and Harold cashed out shortly after. $12,400. Another good night. By August 2017, Harold had won $18 million. By October, $24 million. And on November 3rd, 2017, exactly 11 months after he had walked past that roulette table at the Riverside, Harold Keaton crossed $29 million in total winnings. He decided that was enough. Not because he was worried about getting caught, but because he had solved the problem, proven the concept. The question had been answered. Could a mechanical engineer beat roulette using probability analysis and observational data? Yes. Harold went home that night, updated his spreadsheets one final time, and closed the file. He was done, but the casinos were not done with Harold. In early December, the Silver Palace's gaming analyst, a woman named Jennifer Reeves, ran her monthly variance report. Revenue was down, not dramatically, 0.78% below projection, well within normal statistical variance. But Jennifer was good at her job. She ran deeper analysis, broke down the numbers by game type, by table, by time of day. Roulette Table 1 was paying out more than it should. Again, not dramatically, just consistently. Over 6 months, it had paid $73,000 more than mathematical expectation. She checked the wheel. No mechanical defects. No signs of tampering. She reviewed surveillance footage. Nothing suspicious. Normal players. Normal betting patterns. Except one player appeared frequently. An older man. Always polite. Always small bets. Never drew attention. But he won. Not every night. But more often than probability allowed. Jennifer sent her report to the casino manager. He forwarded it to the security director. They compared notes with other casinos in the area. The pattern emerged. 7 casinos. Same approximate payout variance. Same general player profile. Older man, retired, modest bets, consistent wins. Security directors pulled footage, compared images, enhanced faces. Harold Eugene Keaton, 68 years old, retired mechanical engineer, no criminal record, no known gambling problem, no casino blacklists, a ghost. They ran his player's card history. He didn't have cards at most casinos, paid cash, stayed anonymous. But at the Riverside, he had signed up for a comp card years ago for the buffet discount. That gave them a name, an address, a history. The more they dug, the more impressive it became. This wasn't a team, not organized crime, not a sophisticated cheating ring, just one old man with notebooks and a watch. On December 18th, the casino security directors held a conference call. He's not using devices, the Silver Palace's director said. We've screened him multiple times. No electronics, no hidden cameras. Nothing. He's not colluding with dealers, the Riverside's director added. We've vetted every dealer he's interacted with. They're clean. So what's he doing? The Grand Royale's director asked. Jennifer Reeves spoke up. I think he's exploiting wheel biases, mechanical imperfections. He's an engineer. He'd know how to identify them. That's not illegal, someone said. No, Jennifer agreed. It's not. Long silence. Then what do? We ban him, quietly. No charges, no publicity, just make him go away. They all agreed. On December 21st, 2017, Harold visited the Riverside Casino for what would be the last time. He ordered his usual prime rib, played table 3 for 90 minutes, won $8,200. As he collected his chips, 2 men in dark suits approached. Mr. Keaton? Harold Keaton? Harold looked up. Security. He had been expecting this eventually. Yes. Would you mind coming with us? Just for a conversation. Am I in trouble? No, sir. Just a conversation. They led him to a small office off the casino floor. One of the men was the security director, David Marsh. The other was the casino manager, Robert Tillman. Marsh gestured to a chair. Please sit. Harold sat. Tillman opened a folder. Mr. Keaton, you've been a guest here at the Riverside for many months now. You've also visited several other local casinos. Is that correct? I like to gamble occasionally, Harold said calmly. You've been quite successful. I've had good luck. Marsh leaned forward. Mr. Keaton, we're not accusing you of cheating. We've reviewed everything. You're not using devices. You're not colluding with staff. Everything you've done appears to be legal. Harold nodded. Because it is legal. That may be true, Tillman said, but we reserve the right to refuse service to anyone. And we're asking you, politely, to not return to this casino, or any of our partner casinos. A list will be provided. Harold looked at them both. So you're banning me? We're asking you to find entertainment elsewhere. Because I won. Because you won consistently, Marsh said, in a way that suggests you're exploiting mechanical imperfections in our equipment. That's not cheating, but it's not the spirit of the game either. Harold almost smiled. The spirit of the game is that the house always wins. Usually, yes. Harold stood. Gentlemen, I understand. You're protecting your business. I respect that. I won't return. Tillman seemed surprised. No argument? None. I've already accomplished what I set out to do. Which was? Harold picked up his chips. Solve the problem. He walked to the cashier cage one last time. Cashed out. Walked through the casino floor, past the ringing slots and flashing lights, out into the cold Nevada night. He never gambled again. Harold Keaton quietly sold his apartment in January 2018. He purchased a small cabin in southern Oregon, near a river where he could fish. Paid cash, no mortgage. He lived simply, read engineering journals, built furniture in his small workshop, took walks in the forest. His daughter Emily visited in the spring. Dad, this place is beautiful, but how did you afford it? I had some savings, Harold said, made some good investments. You never mentioned investments before. I'm old. I forget to mention things. When she laughed, let it go. Harold never told her about the $29 million. Most of it sat in various accounts, earning modest interest. He donated anonymously to engineering scholarships, set up a trust for Emily and her children, lived on his pension and Social Security like he always had. The casinos never pursued legal action. There was nothing to pursue. Harold had broken no laws. He had simply been smarter than their systems. They did replace several roulette wheels, upgraded their monitoring software, hired more gaming analysts, tightened their protocols, but the truth was simple. Roulette wheels are mechanical devices, and all mechanical devices have imperfections. You can minimize them, but you can't eliminate them. Someone with enough knowledge, enough patience, enough precision could always find the edge. Harold had proven that. In April 2019, Harold received a letter. No return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper with one sentence. Well done. No signature, but Harold suspected it was from Jennifer Reeves, the analyst who had figured him out. A professional acknowledging another professional. He framed it, hung it in his workshop next to his old employee badge from Precision Manufacturing. Two reminders of systems he had mastered. Harold Keaton died peacefully in his sleep in March 2023 at the age of 74. His daughter found the cabin exactly as he had left it. Everything organized, everything in its place. In a desk drawer, she found notebooks, dozens of them, filled with numbers, diagrams, calculations. She didn't understand any of it. Figured it was engineering work from his career. She threw them away. If she had looked closer, she would have seen dates from 2016 and 2017. She would have seen casino names, wheel numbers, probability charts. But she didn't look closer. And the evidence of the greatest roulette exploitation in history went into a dumpster behind a rural Oregon cabin. Harold wouldn't have minded. He had never done it for recognition. He had done it because it was there, because it was possible, because he couldn't see a problem without solving it. For 42 years, he designed machines that never failed. In his retirement, he found a machine that did fail. Just slightly, just enough. And he beat it using nothing but mathematics, observation, and patience. The casinos called it an